The best PS5 SSDs are maybe one of the top perks of choosing Sony's flagship over Microsoft's Xbox. The addition of an M2 SSD tray means you can increase your internal storage to fit more games on the console, and even gain faster loading times if you pick the right drive. Having that extra space is honestly game-changing, since out of the box, the PS5 will only really have about 650 gigabytes of room to play with after you account for firmware and general bloat. The best PS5 SSDs on today's list will fit into the internal M2 port you can access by taking off one of the console's faceplates. This is easier than it seems, and I'd recommend it just for an occasional dusting session alone. So without further ado, let's jump into our list of the 5 best SSDs for PS5. Number 5. Kingston Fury Renegade. The Kingston Fury Renegade is one of the fastest and most consistent Gen 4 NVMe SSDs, which is powered by the Fisson E18 controller. The result is a drive that excels with sequential read rates of upwards of 8,600 megabytes per second in our testing. While a little on the pricier side, especially in the 2TB configuration like with our review unit, the performance on display really does justify the asking price. What's more, this PS5 SSD comes wrapped in its own graphene heatsink, so there's no need for a bulky DIY route here. The Kingston Renegade SSD keeps things aesthetically simple, with a monochrome design language for all the difference when inside your console. What you will know, though, is just how good this surprisingly slender graphene heatsink actually does at keeping those temperatures down. In our testing, we clocked this drive at a maximum operating temperature of 68 degrees, far below the danger zone, and running commonly between 45 and 55 degrees when in-game. It was only when deliberately stress testing that we saw the heat peak, so you've got little to worry about here. If you're after a Gen 4 NVMe SSD that's ready to be slotted straight into your PS5 console, offering sequential performance pushing that 7,000 megabytes per second mark, then the Kingston Fury Renegade truly lives up to its namesake. Number 4. Samsung 990 Pro. The Samsung 990 Pro is the latest Gen 4 M2 SSD from the brand and offers some top contender performance for PS5 and PC. The 990 Pro 2TB knocked out 7,462 megabytes per second reads and 6,877 megabytes per second writes in our tests, which is as good as it gets for a Gen 4 drive, and is much the same level of performance as you'll find from the top 3 PS5 SSDs on this list. In terms of peak sequential performance, these drives are now very clearly bumping up against the limitations of the PCIe Gen 4 interface, and Samsung is right up there with the best. The 990 Pro is available with and without a heatsink, so keep that in mind when shopping around. The heatsink version is more popular for obvious reasons. PS5 buyers want to save the fuss. However, if you can find a good deal on the 990 Pro without a heatsink, buying these separately is easy and fairly cheap. Number 3. Corsair MP600 Pro LPX. The Corsair MP600 Pro LPX is one of the better designed PS5 SSDs with a built-in heatsink that we've come across, and it's got the performance speeds to match. While our review unit didn't hit the projected 7,100 megabytes per second max sequential read speeds, instead of clocking in at a still respectable 5,580 megabytes per second, you're still getting a more than competent drive for everyday use on your PS5. File transfer times of the Corsair MP600 Pro LPX were impressive to say the least, especially as far as the bigger titles were concerned. Red Dead Redemption 2, with its massive 116 gigabytes, was written to the NVMe drive in only 1 minute 13 seconds. You can expect games in the sub-100 GB range to take well under a minute, as we found with Demon's Souls, which took 46.11 seconds, and Ghost of Tsushima, which made the leap in 46.67 seconds. If you've got an extensive back catalog of smaller titles that you want to make room for on your PS5, then this particular drive excels when more modest file sizes are involved. These capabilities make the Corsair MP600 Pro LPX one of the top contenders on our list. Number 2. Adata XPG Gamix S70 Blade. XPG may not be one of the most well-known brands on this list, but the Gamix S70 Blade deserves high praise for its affordable price point, integrated heatsink, and stellar sequential performance. Despite Adata stating that the claimed up to 7,400 and 6,800 megabytes per second read and write speeds would be capped at 6,100 megabytes per second by the PS5's OS, our testing actually revealed read speeds of over 6,200 megabytes per second once formatted. As expected, Transferring files across from the console's internal storage to the XPG Gamix S70 was no problem at all, and we didn't notice any difference in performance when running games from this drive compared to the console itself. This is the best NVMe SSD if you want something really fast, but you are on a budget. Number 1. Seagate FireCuda 530. When it comes to peak storage performance, there's probably little, if anything, quicker than the Seagate FireCuda 530. Technically, this was the first SSD confirmed for PS5. The Seagate FireCuda 530 is undoubtedly one of the best PS5 SSDs, and definitely one of the most popular. Touted to have blistering speeds and confirmed to have all the next-gen tech within it, this really is a quality PS5 SSD internal option. Seagate backs the FireCuda 530 with rather high endurance ratings, more than twice that of the average Samsung or WD SSD. The 2TB model we are testing today is rated to sustain up to 2550 terabytes of writes within its 5-year warranty, and the 4TB is rated for up to a robust 5100 terabytes of writes. While that is impressive, to say the least, what is even more impressive is the fact that the FireCuda 530 comes with 3 years of rescue data recovery services on top to protect your precious data against unexpected data loss when traditional means fail. No competitor offers such robust protection. In conclusion, we think this is the best PS5 SSD out there, and we would highly recommend it to anyone who is serious about boosting their PS5 performance while having a strong warranty of 5 years. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.